Hi everyone. What to talk about today? First thing, there's actually three major things I want to talk about. First off, I might as well get the short one out of the way. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, and I'm really looking forward to the 60th. And yeah, I have recently watched the new trailer, and it's got me excited. It really is incredible that Russell T Davies is coming back. The fact that he's brought David Tennant and Catherine Tate back is just incredible. Saying that, I just want to point out that while it's not been my favourite era, Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall, I gotta give them credit for what they did. I mean, well, most of Chris Chibnall. I mean, Jodie Whittaker. She may not be one of my favourite doctors, but my God, she's still one of the doctors, and the backlash she received was completely unfair and unnecessary. Because you really got to remember she had big shoes to fill and a lot to live up to. She was the first official female to play the Doctor, and I admit, like I said, she's not one of my favourite versions of the character, but she did kind of grow on me eventually, and I'm sure I I'm sure it'll be a while before she comes back, but I thought her send off, Power of the Doctor, was a fitting conclusion for her time as the character, and it, it was truly a huge final episode, definitely action packed and epic. Was it perfect? No, there's a lot of problems, as many people have pointed out, but if it truly was the final episode of the series, I would have been satisfied. I thought it would have been, I think it would have been a fitting conclusion to the overall series. But of course, um, I mean, that was the original plan, I know, but of course, Rusty Davis came back just in time for the 60th, as as you know, we've had the trailer for it, so it hasn't. The trailer kind of shows more of stuff that we already knew about. There wasn't really a lot of surprises. Um, it did confirm. Well, the trailer didn't, but the BBC later confirmed that Neil Patrick Harris, who's guest starring in the special, is playing the Toy Maker, a villain from way back in the 60s during Hartnell's time on the show. In fact, I believe he was one of Hartnell's final opponents before his regeneration episode. So it's been a long time coming. I could go on and explain why the Toy Maker coming back is a pretty big deal, but there have been many videos on YouTube explaining it a lot better than I could and going into full detail on why. All I'm going to say is he's pretty much one of the most powerful enemies the Doctor has ever faced. He's more or less he's one of the few examples of a proper reality warper in the Doctor Who universe. So yeah, he's definitely pretty worthy for a anniversary special. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing his performance. After I have seen Neil Patrick Harris in the first thing that comes into mind. I know it won't be for everybody else, but for me, for Neil Patrick Harris, it's that series of unfortunate events where he played Count Olaf on Netflix. I imagine that his portrayal of the Toymaker is going to be similar to that character because, he, from what I could tell from the trailers and the promo pictures, he looks like he's going to be a flamboyant presence, and Neil Patrick Harris can do that. Um, but we just got to wait and see. We've got Catherine Tate. Well, actually, I think let's talk about Catherine Tate. We've got Catherine Catherine Tate coming back as Donna Noble. I'm going to be curious to know how they're going to carry on her story, because if you've watched the show or you haven't watched the show, she's pretty much lost all her memories of being with the Doctor, and if she ever remembers them, she'll die. And this has gotten a lot of fans curious. How are they going to do that? How are they going to get away with that? Fans theorise it's the toy maker involved, which is pretty much the go-to theory. But maybe there's a bit of a surprise. I I don't know why. I just get this feeling that she won't get her memories back, and she kind of just accept accept everything for what's going on. Like, they're going to treat it like this is the first time. Well, they're going to treat it like, from Donna's perspective, this is the first time all of this is happening. So it probably won't happen. She probably might get her memories back. I don't know, but I don't know why. I just get this feeling that they're going down with she'll never get her memories back. She just goes along with the adventure. How that's not killing her, I'm sure they'll find an explanation. But again, I could be wrong. And besides, Donna is just one of my favourite companions from the series. Catherine Tate is just a great actress and a great comedian. So, of course, she would make a likable character. Well, it's actually kind of funny because in many ways, Donna's not really a likable character, at least in any other show. And if she was portrayed by any other actress, she would not have been a likable character. But Catherine Tate, she just found a way, and it's great to see her with David Tennant again, who we'll get to in a minute. But alongside Donna, we have the rest of her family coming back, and it's great seeing them again, especially the late great Bernard Gribbons as Wilfred Mott, even though he's not been in any of the trailers, and the BBC or Rusty Davies hasn't even said anything, as far as I know. I don't think any of any of any official BBC sources have even confirmed he's in it, and we only know he's in it because we saw him on location. We saw him being filmed, so he does play a part in the special. I don't think he's going to play a major part. I think it's more on the line of he's going to be in it, but he's only in it because Donna's in it, and it wouldn't be right if Donna was in it, he wouldn't be in it. So I'm not expecting him to play a major part in it. It's going to be heartbreaking seeing him on screen again, especially since he passed away like a month after he did his scenes. So this would be his final performance. It is. It's gonna. I really hope the first episode of the special, as we all know, the 60th anniversary is going to be split into 3 different episodes: the Star Beast, Into the Wild Blue Yonder, I believe, and the Giggle. Um, yeah, I think he's only going to be in episode 1 and maybe a little cameo in episode 3, but yeah, I'm not expecting him to do much. He's just in it because, Donna's in it. But you know what? That's fine. That's great. This is an anniversary, and it's great it's an excuse to have fan service and to have people come back. Um, in regards to new characters, we've got Donna's daughter Rose, played by, I'm really hoping I'm pronouncing her name right, Yasmin Finning. they haven't really shown much of her in the trailer. We just get one quick scene of her shouting out "Mum." So that officially confirms that she is Donna's daughter. Again, not sure what. They've not really shown a lot of her in the trailers. She's been in the trailers, but not like active wise. So we've just got to wait and see what she brings to the table, and what her role is in the overall special. Um, we've also got the first televised appearance of Beep the Meep, and if you don't know who Beep the Meep is, he's a pretty popular recurring villain from the Doctor Who in the comic strips and Doctor Who magazine. Excuse me. Really interesting that out of all the villains, Rusty Davies chose to adapted them as a um, villain for the 60th. I mean, I know they're not the main villain of the special. From what I could gather, um, from what I could gather, and this is just I know I'm not the only person who says this because I've seen other people on YouTube and Twitter say the exact same thing. Yeah, I'm still calling it Twitter. I refuse to call it X, regardless of what everybody else says. It's Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. Um, from what I could gather, episode 1, The Star Beast, will be a loose adaptation of the original comic strip, The Star Beast, which was Beat the Meep's first appearance. So, and when I say loose, there will be a few changes to fit in, but it is overall going to be I do feel like it's going to be a straightforward, a loose adaptation of that story. So, because most of the marketing for the 60th has focused mostly on episode 1 and a bit of episode 3 and only a few snippets of episode 2, because apparently that one, from what I've heard, episode 2 has been the most secretive episode and the most one completely under wraps. Unlike episode 1 and episode 3, it wasn't filmed on location, it was filmed in a studio. So who knows what who what happens in that episode? We won't know until the broadcast. A lot of fans are hoping that episode 2 is going to be the most referenced callback part of the special, and we might see archive footage and recordings of previous characters, previous Doctors. Of course, we've still got Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor as well, the 15th Doctor, who, even though again he hasn't appeared much in the trailers, we do know he will play a part in the 60th. How much he's going to play a part in, we do not know. We just have to wait and see. So yeah, we still don't quite know what the overall plot of the special is going to be. So it is definitely keeping fans excited. We can only theorise and guess until November, really. I'm really surprised they haven't announced the air dates yet, especially since it's only next month. So I wonder why they're keeping it so late. Yeah, but go quickly talk about, because I've got other stuff to talk about that isn't Doctor Who related. Really quickly, David Tennant's back, not as the 10th Doctor, but as the 14th Doctor. How and why, we can only theorise. I actually have my own theorise on why the 14th Doctor looks like the 10th Doctor. I think it does have something to do with the toy maker. And what he's done is he's gone back in time to the part where the 10th Doctor regenerates and stops him from regenerating. So in other words, he pretty much kills Wilf before the 10th Doctor saves him, because Wilf is the cause of the 10th Doctor's regeneration. So killing him immediately stops the 10th Doctor from regenerating. And from there, the 10th Doctor lives out the 11th, 12th, and 13th Doctor's adventures, and the Toymaker keeps on manipulating events to make sure he doesn't regenerate. Now, again, this is just my theory, and if I was writing the 60th, this would have been my idea, but I understand that would be a really controversial choice, because, I'm technically erasing the 11th, 12th. I'm technically erasing Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and Jodie Whittaker as Doctors. But don't worry, I would have brought them back, because something like that you just can't get rid of. I mean, if you thought the Timeless Child storyline would cause the split in the fan base, a decision like this would have utterly destroyed it. But again, that's God, I'm rambling on now. That's just a theory or an idea. I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do that. I'm hoping Rusty Davies has a more clever and original reason why. And another thing that fans are kind of worried about is the lack of representation of other eras. So far, it does look like the 60th is focusing on Series 4 of the Revive series, which, I don't really see a major issue with that, because that was pretty much when Doctor Who was in its peak. That was the height of its popularity. So I'm not surprised that Rusty Davies is focusing a lot more on that particular era. But like I said, a lot of episode 2 and a lot of episode a lot most a majority of episode 2, and I'm sure a good chunk of episode 3 has been under wraps. So we don't know what will happen. I mean, I do have complete trust in him. I do believe he will celebrate the whole 60 years and not just his impact on the show, because that you just don't do that as a writer. Anyway, that's one big thing. That's one big thing I wanted to talk about. The second big thing, crossing over into another sci-fi franchise, is the series Ashoka has just recently, series 1 of Ashoka has just recently finished. Overall, I enjoyed it. It had a slow start, I admit. It had a slow start and build up, but by the end, I did enjoy it, and it is definitely some of the better Star Wars we've had in quite a while. Like, I mean, I've not hated the new Star Wars. Like, I've not been like some other fans who've really hated how where what Disney's doing with Star Wars. I mean, I won't lie, I've been disappointed in a few things, but I've not I'm not going to be one of those people who screams how much Star Wars is dead now and it's a dead franchise and nothing's going to bring it back, because I don't believe that, because it's a fictional franchise. The beautiful thing about fiction is, with the right writer and the right director, you can bring something back. I mean, as I'm going to talk about later, look at the Evil Dead films. I mean, that franchise was pretty much not forgotten, but nothing was being done with that franchise for a long time, and it wasn't till the late 2010s, and it wasn't till the late 2010s and early 2020s that it started to breathe in new life. But I'll get to that in a minute. I'm going back to Star Wars right now. Yeah, I'm first off, I'm not surprised that they decided to go live action with Ahsoka, because ever since her introduction, Ahsoka has just had a huge impact on the franchise, on the story. As big as who's a good example? Well, I can't really think of a. I wouldn't say she has had a big impact as like Luke Skywalker, as any of the Skywalkers, but she is definitely one of those characters that's gained a huge fan base. Has she is pretty much the face of the Clone Wars, one of the faces of the Clone Wars. There's no denying that. So it does make sense to bring her back into live action. Um, I would have loved to have seen the voice actress as Ahsoka, but I can understand why they had to recast her. In fact, all the characters from Star Wars Rebels, as far as I can tell, apart from Grand Admiral Thrawn, they've all been recasted, and it can be a bit distracting seeing different actors play these characters after getting so used to hearing these voice actors play these characters, and it can be a bit distracting. In fact, another good example is the upcoming Chicken Run sequel, which I'm not going to go into until that's actually out, but if you know what I mean about voice actors, it's funny. I mean, seeing a different actor playing an established character already played by an actor is already distracting enough, but even voice acting wise, it can be just as distracting, especially if they sound nothing like them, especially like the original voice actors. It can be slightly off putting because it doesn't feel like it's the same character. So seeing live action versions of the characters as these actually no, a majority of Ahsoka's cast, the cast of Ahsoka did started off animated to transition into live action, and does it feel like these are the same characters? It does with Thrawn, but that's only because, well, that is his voice actor playing him in live action, so it does feel more natural for him being there. This does feel like, yeah, I can watch Star Wars Rebels and then watch Ahsoka and think, yeah, that is definitely the same character. But with the others, like the Ghost Crew and even Ahsoka herself, I think I will get used to it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm sure for other fans, it does feel more natural, but I don't know. Let me know what you think. Personally, I find it distracting at first, but they do eventually grow on me. I do get used to them, but the problem is that I do kind of see them as completely different characters at the same time, which you're not meant to do. You're meant to see them as the original characters. But apart from that, seeing Hayden Christensen again, oh my god, it's it should feel more surreal seeing him as Anakin again in live action, because even though he didn't start off animated, when we think of Anakin Skywalker, we do think of the Anakin Skywalker from Clone Wars. We don't really think of the film. I don't. For a long time, people didn't want to think of the film Anakin Skywalker because a lot of people did not like Hayden Christensen's portrayal of that character. But because of this show and Obi-Wan Kenobi, we've had it's given Hayden Christensen a chance to really become the Anakin Skywalker that we all wanted, which is what the Clone Wars Anakin was. And I'm gonna say it, I he does feel like the Anakin Skywalker from the Clone Wars show, which is really bizarre because he came first, didn't voice him for Clone Wars, and yet here he is playing Anakin again. But he definitely got inspiration from the Clone Wars. I did hear that he watched the whole of Clone Wars to prepare himself for the role, and it definitely shows because I can believe that the animated Anakin and the live action Anakin are the same people. It definitely shows. He definitely did his homework. It shows in his in the way he portrays the character. And seeing him very briefly as Darth Vader as well. Oh my god, it's so chill. I know they never will, but I would love to see a what if version of Star Wars where Anakin didn't have to wear the suit, or at least Darth Vader didn't have to wear the suit, because I think he can pull it off. I think Hayden Christensen has the capability to pull off an entire, not a film, but an entire hour-long episode of a alternate Star Wars where he plays a suitless Darth Vader. I can honestly believe he can pull it off. And I'm not 100% sure if they de-aged him in this. He did look a bit de-aged, unlike Kenobi where they didn't even bother. I feel like they did do it to him this time in Ahsoka, but to match up with his appearance in Episode 3, speaking of which, seeing him in the Clone Wars armor, look, that episode was just one massive love letter to Clone Wars fans, and it gave us just enough for us to go, oh my god, he's wearing that, or oh my god, Captain Rex in live action. It gave us just enough of that. It's fan service done right. But going back to the de-aging, even if they did use it on him for that episode, it really doesn't matter because he's a Force ghost now, and he's meant to look slightly unnatural and uncanny because he's technically he's not alive anymore. So yeah, I think the CGI effects on him actually adds more to the environment that he's in now. Will we come back in series 2? Ending to the the ending to the series kind of implies that we might see more of him, but who knows? Um, I just gotta quickly say Ray Stevenson's character. I really can't remember his name. That's the problem with a show like this having so many characters. It you got it's very hard to remember all their names at once. But anyway, Ray Stevenson's character, may he rest in peace. He gave the best performance in the entire show, and considering what we had in the show, that's a lot of praise. And his character as well, definitely definitely interesting. A dark Jedi that's not a Sith, but kind of wants to bring back the Jedi Order in a new way. Really gutted that we're not going to see his character again in the show, because I mean they can recast him, but I don't know. It, again, this is going back to the whole what I said before about the rebel characters, will it have the same impact? And there's even talks of um, deep faking him as well, which I know they did it with Tarkin in Rogue One, but I just feel like doing it with a character, with an actor who's just recently passed away, I just feel like it would be in poor taste if they did that. The only way they can continue that character's story is through either either a comic book, a graphic novel, or um, someone said an animated series. Just get a good impersonator. I think that would be great as well. But anyway, overall, the series Ahsoka, I liked it. I mean, I wish I could go into more detail about it and what I thought works, what didn't work, but I don't want to I don't want to keep these things too long. In fact, I'm already going over the 31 length, which I kind of don't want to do. So I'm just gonna leave it as Ahsoka. Great series. Looking forward to season two. Moving on to what I wanted to talk about. Finish off what I want to talk about is I've just very recently got into the Evil Dead films, and I've watched the original trilogy. Really enjoy them. I'm a sucker for campy horror, and all three of them are campy in their own way. And yeah, yeah, I mean, the third one is definitely drastically different from the first two, but I don't know. I do find enjoyment in it, despite it being so tonally and different from the previous two. But I'm mostly talking about the two newest ones. Well, the other one, the first one, not the first Evil Dead, but the remake of the Evil Dead came out in 2013. Yeah, I know I'm a bit late to the party, but I I am impressed how they've, even though it's almost the exact same story, they've kept it. It still feels like it still feels fresh. You know, it feels like they pretty much took they pretty much watched the original one and just took the horror elements and left the campy elements behind, which you would think would probably, ruin it, but they don't. They've they oh, this is gonna sound so stupid, but they turned it into a proper horror film, and it pretty much shows that the idea does work as a horror. And it does make me wonder about other, not campy horror, but other things that, other comedy horrors where you just take the horror elements and get rid of the comedy. Could it still work for all of them? I don't know. I mean, most people would say it gets rid of their charm. It gets rid of the charm of the original, but you want this to be different from the original as much as you can, and you can't just have different characters representing the characters from the original. No, you got to have a different vibe, a different style to make it similar but its own thing. A great example of a remake that I'm always going to say bring up is the 2005 King Kong. That is a great example of how you do a remake. But going back to the Evil Dead, um, I just recently watched the second one, Evil Dead Rising, the second reboot, remake, whatever you want to call them. And again, I really enjoyed it. I really loved how it's in a completely different location, so it kind of gives the filmmakers an excuse to be as graphic and horrible as they can. But I really like how there's a bit of a symbolic allegory to one of the characters. So the main character, the one of the main spoilers. One of the main survivors of the film, they just found out they're pregnant, and throughout the whole film, the spirits that possess everybody else, the evil spirits, they are tormenting her about it because she clearly is terrified of being pregnant. And I just think I I do think that is a realistic horror for some people. You know, parenthood can be a scary thing, and especially if you're ill prepared for it, it is a scary thought. And I feel like the best horror films are the ones that use more realistic horror, and they use they use a supernatural element or something like that to as a way of representing that fear. But God, thinking about it now, these films they're so graphic. I mean, not saying that's a bad thing, but my God, yeah. Um, One thing I just got to say about the Evil Dead films, and when I say the films, I mostly mean the original, the 2013 remake, and Evil Dead Rising. You really don't know who's gonna be the last one standing in any of these films. They kill off characters who I honestly thought was going to be the one of the survivors, or at least the only survivor. So I am surprised with who they keep alive and who they kill off. Really oh, I can't even say the word, but you know what I mean. It doesn't. It's unpredictable. You just don't know who's going to get out alive. When I get the chance, I'm going to start watching Ash versus the Evil Dead, the series on Netflix. Yeah, because you know, as much as I liked the new ones, I do miss the campy side of the series, and having Bruce Campbell come back as Ash, looking forward to it. So yeah, I'll probably talk about that eventually. I'm going to leave it here now because 37 minutes is a bit too long. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to talk about this week. If you have any questions, feel free to leave some in the comments. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I hope you have a nice week. Bye.